Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric Entertaining Series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, more specifically in this instance the work-in-progress Sega 32X core. But this is more of a ROM hack video because MiSTer, Linkuei and BillyTimeGames released an update to their Mortal Kombat II Arcade Edition version for the 32X. Now on Thanksgiving night I talked about an update to the original Mortal Kombat Arcade Edition on Sega Genesis, but you're going to get a lot more Mortal Kombat out of this because it is the sequel and it is on 32X. Before we get far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But honestly, I love stuff like this because Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2 on Sega Genesis and even Super Nintendo were a very cut down version of the arcade originals. And while they were a ton of fun and pretty much every kid had them back in the day, at least on one console, it's one of those things, getting a better version of the game is always going to be welcome. And from the intro sequence all the way through to the gameplay, this is just a vastly improved version compared to what actually existed back in the day. You're going to get better graphics, you're going to get more backgrounds, you're going to get more voice effect work, and if you want to, you can even use a special flash card on real 32X hardware to get CD quality music out of the mix, but that's not something incorporated into the MiSTer FPGA core, so that's not something you're going to be hearing today. Now, as much as I can say about Mortal Kombat, it was a huge franchise back in the day, but the first two games absolutely have some of the worst AI ever imaginable. Once you get to the third round, the AI absolutely goes insane on you and does nothing more than want to kill you in new and creative ways. Now, there is an option here to basically gimp the AI down to a more manageable level, but even then, Midway just basically made this game as hard as possible. And if you're not familiar with Midway's arcade games back in the day, they were some of the most difficult things out there, NBA Jam being one of the worst offenders, just having rubber banding and code that would absolutely make sure you could not win after a certain stage unless you were absolutely a perfectionist at the game. As we take a look at the gameplay footage here, it just looks so much better than you ever remember working on a Sega console, and that is because a lot of the palette has been cleaned up, a lot more effects have been added in, there's just more to see and do all the way around this game. And I would say getting the voice samples in was a huge deal because back in the day, missing those voice samples really did affect the gameplay in a negative way. I will say though, even with AI mode on, basically lessening the AI's ability to destroy you, it is still not an easy game, and it's still not a game that I am great at. I've always enjoyed playing Mortal Kombat, but the first two games are definitely still a little bit rough on the overall balance. I'm either doing a great job or getting completely destroyed by the CPU, but that kind of is the name of the game at Mortal Kombat. But again, it's so fun to see this stuff come out. You have different backgrounds and different effects in them. You've got a training mode incorporated into the game. You have bigger, better, bolder sprites, a new color palette. Everything around this has just been improved to a point in time where it is the de facto best way to play as far as the 32X is concerned. And this is following up on the Mortal Kombat Arcade Edition as well. I did a video on that a few weeks ago, so if you want to see that, I will leave a link in the description below. But MiSTer, Linkuei and BillyTimeGames are some of the most well-known games in modding stuff like this, and it's just one of those things. Everything they do is absolutely a 10 out of 10 love letter to fans, because of course you can play the original Mortal Kombat 2 on MAME today. It's not like the arcade version isn't readily accessible for anyone who wants to play it, but honestly having stuff like this just kind of rights a historical wrong as far as the ports we were given on Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2. The developers could have done a lot better job with the hardware. The 32X is clearly proven to have more horsepower than people think, especially with the most recent Doom 32X Resurrection mod where you have the Sega CD and the 32X working in tandem, but you can still cheese this game the same way you could back in the day, getting your opponents into a stun lock on the CPU side. And the best part is the moveset has been expanded, combos that were removed from the game have been added back in, so it's going to be the most fully featured console port of this game you can get. And I would say with the improved shadows, color palettes, and everything else, it's also the prettiest version of the game. And because the 32X has a little bit better sound hardware on board as well, or at least capabilities, you get a really good sound. So go ahead and listen for 45 seconds and I'll come back, talk more about the changes to Mortal Kombat 2 and why this is the de facto version of the game to play now. But enjoy.
Round 3, fight! Finisher. Katana wins.
I mean, Mortal Kombat 2 always had a great soundtrack, but it sounds even better here. Now, if we go into the options menu, you're going to see difficulty, credits, everything like that. And trust me, I put it on very easy to get these captures done because this game is still brutal. But you're going to see extra features, AI nerf on, and a timer on as well, just like you would have in the arcade version. If you go under dip switches, you're going to have a ton of different options here. Player 1 or 2 not taking any damage, 1-hit kills, being able to pick the background, being able to go through demo tests, free play, and make sure that the CPU can always do a fatality, a friendship, or a babality if you end up losing the match. And I do like keeping the fatality on there. Just gives you a little bit more to see and do because the CPU is not always guaranteed to do something like that. But as we move into the next level here, again, the next stage at least, I just love the colorways they've chosen for this version of the game. Of course, again, it's not going to rival what the arcade did, but it gets very close, and other things are going to be added in, like better animations for some of the fatalities, especially on the pit, as well as some other Easter eggs that were removed from the home console version of the game. Because it always felt like back in the day, these ports were rushed to capitalize on the success that was Mortal Kombat, and it doesn't really feel like any home port ever got the attention and love and time it deserved to be as close and faithful to the arcade original as it possibly could be. But that's what happens when you have a hit arcade franchise and you want to make sure you get that home port money. You kind of make sure you get it to market as quickly as possible, and these ports definitely suffered. It was only to like Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 where these games ports were something that you would definitely want to play as compared to something like the arcade, because they did get close to parity at a certain point in time. And I do love that Baraka kind of just floats across the screen there at certain points as well, with the parallax scrolling clouds in the background with the monk floating around. This game was always, in my opinion, one of the prettier Mortal Kombat games, and really did a great job to expand on what the original Mortal Kombat offered, because today the original game I feel is very thin on content and really feels more like a prototype, where Mortal Kombat 2 feels like the actually realized version of the game Midway was developing back in the day. And of course you get new characters, you get new opponents to fight against, new backgrounds, everything extra. And with that training mode, you're going to be able to learn the game a little bit better. And you'll see here again, one more good fatality for the road. But it's these type of ROM hacks and fan games that I absolutely love because they aren't essential. When Master Linkuei and BillyTimeGames could have made their own brand new game, they could have brought something to the Sega 32X that was never there before, but they clearly have a love for Mortal Kombat, and it's not like these are easy endeavors either, especially on the CPU AI code. You have to go in and basically take the game apart and rebuild certain aspects of it to reduce down the AI. But again, I'm not very good at Mortal Kombat, so even with that mode on, I still find this game relatively difficult. But some of those animations in the trees there as well, I never remember being on the 32X version of the game, but I can't remember now, so you leave me a comment down below and tell me where the first place you played Mortal Kombat 2 was. I would be curious. Now, as far as playing this game is concerned, there's a ton of different ways to be able to do it. You can do it on MiSTer FPGA, you can do it on real hardware with a flash cart, you can do it via software emulation. I would recommend Ares off the top, but whether you play Ultimate Mortal Kombat 2, the arcade edition, or the original Mortal Kombat arcade edition, definitely check these mods out because they're absolutely fantastic. But I'm going to give you one more soundtrack sample because I love the sound coming out of the 32X. 30 seconds this time and I'll be right back with more.
Round 1, fight. Melina, we fight.
Sounds great to my ears, but you leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think. And that little voice sample right there was never in the original Mortal Kombat 2 on the 32X. And that is why stuff like this is great. You take a game that everyone already loves and you improve upon it and get it closer to their memory. Because maybe you haven't played the arcade version of Mortal Kombat 2 in a while. Maybe you don't use MAME as an emulator. Maybe you want the best version of Mortal Kombat 2 you can try to get your hands on your original 32X. That is why mods like this super matter. BillyTimeGames, Master Linkuei, and the rest of the crew that worked on this did an incredible job just giving us a better version of an already beloved game, and for that it is appreciated even if I do suck at the title. And it's always fun to talk about more 32X on the channel as well because that core recently got an update. But definitely check this one out. I will leave a link in the description below to the patch. The only wrong way to play the game is not to play it at all because this is now the de facto best version of Mortal Kombat 2 on the Sega Genesis 32X. See you next time. Bye-bye.